Hey everyone, Jose here from Rivian Tracker, and welcome to my 30,000 mile review of my Rivian R1T. I purchased my Rivian R1T back in May of 2022. So I've had this truck now for, I want to say, about 20 or so months, about a year and 8 months as of the recording of this video. And you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, you just hit 30,000 miles? That doesn't seem like a lot. Well, I work from home. You know, I don't have to commute very often, so 30,000 mile comes a little bit, it takes a little longer to get there, not having to commute and all that. But I've taken the truck on a couple of small road trips, with more bigger road trips planned later this year in 2024. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and kind of talk about what it's been like owning a Rivian R1T for 30,000 miles. I reached out on social media to multiple people to see, if anybody had any questions that they wanted, ask for me to answer in this video. And so I have a bunch of those to go over. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started on this awesome Rivian R1T 30,000 mile review video now. Hey, you join me inside here, my Rivian R1T, where I have my phone recording me. I have my iPad sitting here in front of the steering wheel, and I'm sitting in my driveway. And I just wanted to talk through, the ownership of having a Rivian R1T, what did I used to drive before having a Rivian R1T, what my thoughts are, and then just a bunch of questions and comments and thoughts. So it's kind of going to be all over the place, so forgive me for that, but I hope you do watch through the whole video and enjoy it. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So I pre-ordered my Rivian R1T, I want to say back in 2018, 2019. And originally it was for a launch edition, launch green, Rivian R1T. And so, yeah, at the time, my wife and I, we had a 2020 Tesla Model Y, which we loved. And it was a great vehicle. It was a phenomenal road tripper, being able to have a Tesla. And at the time, there really wasn't an option out there for pickup trucks, or electric pickup trucks, as you say. So, we didn't have the Ford Lightning, we didn't have the Rivian, we didn't have a Cybertruck. There was nothing, and so it was, obviously Tesla had announced a Cybertruck, but it was far from release at the time. And so, I've driven pickup trucks before. I had a Chevy Colorado. I had a GMC Sierra. So I came from having a pickup truck, and I just enjoyed having one. So I want an electric one, and Rivian's really caught my eye, so I pre-ordered one. Fast forward to April 2022, and I get a call from Rivian notifying me that, hey, it's time to begin the purchasing process for your Rivian R1T. And so we started doing everything, and that was during the peak time of used car sales. Used car sales were through the roof. So we were able to trade in our 2020 Tesla Model Y that we had long range to Rivian for a good penny. We made good money on it. And so we were able to put a lot of that towards the Rivian, and in full transparency, that helped a lot in being able to purchase and afford the vehicle. So that was awesome and great. And so we've had the truck now for 20 months since May 2022. We've gone through a lot of road trips. There's been some goods, some bads, and I just want to kind of walk through all that. So let's just start out. So how has the truck held up? Really well. I'm going to be honest and transparent with you. Really well. It is a premium feeling vehicle compared to other vehicles I've owned. When you compare it to any Tesla, really, and I'm not trying to make this a Tesla versus Rivian comparison video, because owning an electric vehicle is good no matter which electric vehicle it is. It's always more recently it's become a Tesla versus Rivian, or Rivian versus GM, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Owning an electric vehicle is a good thing, so it doesn't really matter which one you own. But the quality of the vehicle is really good. I had no issues with my build quality here. Panel gaps, they were fine. They don't bother me. There was nothing substantially huge when it came to that. I also had a really good experience with my previous vehicles. When I had my Tesla Model Y, I didn't have huge panel gap issues. I know a lot of people did. No issues. Maybe I'm not so OCD about that, and that's okay. You can be. That's totally fine. But for me, I was not. And so, I did an inspection of the vehicle when I got it, and everything was really well. Nothing, as I look around and think about it, nothing really has broken, so to speak, right? Everything seems to be functioning, seems to work correctly. Things are holding up quite well, with some exceptions, and we'll get to that in a second. But obviously, normal wear and tear happens to a vehicle as you use it, and so it's held up quite nicely. Some people reached out and said, "Hey, have you had any like cracking or peeling of the materials or delamination of some of the fake chrome stuff that's inside the truck or even outside?" And I haven't had any delamination issues. I know some people have reported on that, but I have not had that issue. I will say no cracking or peeling for the most part. Though the wood that comes in the front of the Rivian here, the ashwood, the dark ashwood for my option. I do, there's some little in the edges, some small little cracks here and there. Nothing that's gonna be like show stopping for me. Like, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. One of the biggest issues I probably had is on the driver's seat here, right where the controls are to be able to move the seat back and forward. There's a piece of plastic that surrounds it, and I'll post a picture here for you guys to see it. That's cracked and broken. And so that is covered under warranty, and Rivian will take care of it. I have an appointment scheduled, actually, funny enough, next week, January 11th. So for a lot of little things that have to be done, some recalls that have to be done, and as well as just small little tweaks like that. Steering wheel alignment has been an issue for me. In the very beginning, I reached out to Rivian. I took it into the service center and was like, "Hey, the steering wheel alignment just feels off, right? It's like a little bit to the left when I'm driving." And so they attempted to fix it. It felt fixed for a while, but now it's kind of like back to where it started. So I'm having them check it. I know some people have had their steering wheels replaced due to that issue. So maybe that's going to happen. I won't know. I don't really know, but we'll see what happens then. And so anyways, small little things like that. My tonneau cover, I have the powered tonneau cover. I'm gonna knock on the fake wood here in the truck and say that still works. I won't, I'm not gonna lie and say that anytime I open or close it, I like cringe a little bit, because thinking, is this is the end? But I'm very thankful that it works very nicely. I do think that it's probably not the best design. And I think it's probably a little bit overcomplicated for what it is, but I'm not going to complain. It works, and it works nicely. And unlike others who've had their tonneau cover broken, I'm glad that mine works. That being said, I know that Rivian is now starting to reach out to people who have their tonneau covers broken, and are starting to replace them with new improved versions. So that's good. So should it break one day, which I totally expect that it would, that's something that Rivian will replace with no issue. So I'm not too concerned about that. What's been the service center experience? So I've taken the truck in maybe 2 or 3 times to the service center. In the beginning, when I first got the truck, I had some small damage to the front emblem on the hood, that it was cracked. So I took the truck into the service center and they replaced it. This was before they had mobile service come out. I'm lucky and grateful to live in Orlando, where we have a service center less than 30 minutes from my house. And a shout out to the Orlando Service Center folks. They are great. They've always been nothing but the best and the friendliest people. So thanks for that. So to add to that, my service center experience has been really positive. And so I go there. My one complaint would probably be, hey, I wish they had more Rivian loaner vehicles, because if they don't, they typically will give you an enterprise rental, and that's just, it's not ideal, but it's also not the end of the world. So leading into that, hey, Jose, why'd you go to the service center? What issues have you had? And so not too long ago, I want to say probably back in October of 2023, I had left the car in the airport for a couple of days, maybe 4 or 5 days. We were traveling back, and we get to the airport, we get to the truck in the morning, and I unlock it, and I get in, and the car is chiming like crazy. And I posted about this on social media, so you probably know about this. But anyways, the car was going crazy, right? There was beeping noises. The truck was throwing a critical battery error. It was kind of, I wasn't really sure what was going on. What was worse is that I couldn't shift the car into drive or anything, right? It wouldn't let me shift into any gear. I attempted to do a hard reset, press and hold the steering wheel column left and right, let it do its thing. Tried to do that, didn't work. So I called Rivian roadside assistance, and they kind of walked me through a couple of steps here and there. Eventually, I was able to get the truck to get into gear, which meant, hey, we can go home from the airport, which was nice. For the record, this was all, it was like 6 in the morning, right? We had taken a red-eye flight. We had just gotten back. And so we were exhausted. The last thing we wanted to do was deal with an issue like this. So that was annoying, to say the least, and unpleasant. So I get home, and we get home. I plug the car into charge. Rivian's like, hey, we want you to do a deep sleep cycle, right? So turn off Bluetooth on your phone, walk away from the vehicle, don't get near it, let it sleep, let it charge, let it do its thing. Great, cool. 6 hours later, I go back to the vehicle, hoping that maybe this is resolved, and it's not. So I call Rivian back again and say, hey, this issue is not resolved. Can you help me get a service center appointment? Because at the time, as many people know, getting a service center appointment can be difficult because there are more and more vehicles rolling out and not enough service centers around the country. So they were able to get me in that same day. So that afternoon, I drove my Rivian over to the Orlando Service Center, and so I left it there. And so it was kind of after Rivian determined that it wasn't a hazard to drive the vehicle there, because the vehicle did say critical battery error, please drive to service center. So it was determined through the triage steps that Rivian took that, hey, it's clearly safe to drive the vehicle. It's telling you to drive the vehicle. So I drove it to the service center. So once it got there, it was on a Friday. So obviously I had to wait the weekend. No, they weren't doing much on the weekend. Monday rolls around. I get a call that they're finally taking a look at it. They look at it, blah, blah, blah. By Tuesday, they determined that the issue was actually an HVAC heater issue. And so they had to replace the whole HVAC system. So they did. They replaced the whole HVAC system. They had to order it because they didn't have it. So that took a couple of days. Overall, it probably took about 10 days where the truck was at the service center. So not the quickest turnaround, but it also could have been worse. And in the middle of this, of having a loaner vehicle, Rivian calls me and says, hey, we have a R1T loaner in. Do you want to come in and swap out your gas rental for that? So I did. So I was able to get another R1T loaner, which was better than driving a internal combustion engine car. So I did. So anyways, long story short there, the HVAC system was resolved. They replaced it. So lesson to be learned there is, just because your vehicle says there's a critical battery error doesn't necessarily mean it's a critical battery error, right? Because clearly that was HVAC related. And it was all had to do with a flaw in the HVAC design that has been fixed. So now my vehicle has the new version of it with condensation building up. I don't know the full details of it, but needless to say, that shouldn't happen again, which is nice. So that's really been like the biggest issue that I've had with the truck. And so, like, for example, like I mentioned earlier, I have an upcoming service appointment to handle little different things, small things, right? Like I have a squeaky door handle. The plastic broke here in the thing, right, from wear and tear. There's a recall with the half shafts that need to be handled. So, just little things here and there that have to be done. Nothing like show stopping. If I didn't take my vehicle in for service, none of those things would stop me from enjoying the truck and continuing to drive it. But it has to be done, right? Those are the service things that need to be done, right? Which then leads into like servicing the Rivian. What does that look like? Well, if you own an EV, you probably already know, but if you don't, when it comes to servicing the EV, or an EV particularly, there really isn't a lot you have to do, right? You do tire rotations, right? So you want to rotate your tire, and that can vary. I mean, everybody's going to tell you something a little bit different. You can rotate at 3,000 miles, 5,000 miles, 8,000 miles. Just depends on usage. And we'll talk about tires and tire rotation here in a little bit. But other than that, you know, you're filling the windshield washer fluid, and that's about it, right? There's no oil change, there's none of that other nonsense. Additionally, outside of that, you know, you may want to, if you live in a place where air quality is not the best, and you don't rely on air recirculation in your vehicle, you may want to consider replacing the cabin air filter just every so often, you know, every 6 months to a year, whatever it is, right? You want to check it out. And I have a video, I'll link to it here, on a replacement cabin air filter that I put in my truck that was HEPA air filter. So anyways, which has been great. I've loved it. So even though I don't live in a place where air quality is super duper bad, it doesn't help. It's not bad to have a HEPA air cabin filter in there. So anyways, that would probably be when it comes to servicing the vehicle, those are the kind of things. What is my favorite feature on the Rivian? Someone asked me. My favorite feature on the Rivian probably continues to be the continuous software updates. And you know me, right? I run the Rivian Tracker website. I started it initially to help track software versions and all the stuff that has to do with Rivian software. So I have a soft spot for Rivian software, and in the time I've had this vehicle, every single month Rivian has released at least one software update. And some of the software updates can be small bug fixes, issues, fixing, you know, loss of range overnight because of some sleeping bug. And other times is introducing whole new features, such as snow mode, right? Or introducing a gauge screen where you have now all this data on your vehicle. So you have all those fun things that that keep coming every month. And it's like every month I get new features in my truck, and that's my favorite feature. Like, it's just fun to be able to do that. And other EV manufacturers do it too, right? Tesla, probably the folks who designed EV software updates to really be critical and to make it so that your car is always constantly getting new features and new stuff without having to take it into a dealership or a service center to take care of something, right? Now, that being said, you know, there is a flip side to software updates. And more recently, Rivian released a software update. If I recall correctly, it was 2023.42, which ended up causing some issues with the infotainment screen in Rivian vehicles for some users. And so I'm an early adopter of software. As soon as a new software comes out and I get it hit on my phone, I will install it. I don't wait. It is my job, I feel like, as someone who runs the Rivian Tracker account, to be able to kind of figure out what the new stuff are in the new software, figure out if it's all successful, and ensure that everything works so that I can then tell you, hey guys, it's safe to do this. This is the new stuff. This is what may have broken this update. This is what's fixed, right? So I will try to do that. And so with that, when Rivian released that software update, they accidentally released an internal beta build to the public, which was not designed to work with the public. What did that do? Well, that caused an issue where the infotainment screen, the screen here in the center of the car, kind of got stuck in an endless restarting cycle, right? So like it was black, it would show the Rivian logo, it would go black again, right? It was kind of stuck in that cycle. And so Rivian pulled the update pretty quickly, and it affected, a few users, myself included, because I'm an early adopter of the software, right? I want to install it as soon as it comes out. And listen, this was a mistake, right? Rivian should have had better guidelines on how to ensure that something like this didn't happen. And they listened, right? They had errors in their communication. They didn't really communicate with people correctly. They went on to Reddit to communicate this, which is not the place I would go initially, right? Yes, I go there, I check it out, I hang out on on the Rivian subreddit and all that, but that's not where majority of owners are going to be. Majority of owners are probably going to receive a phone call or an email or a push notification on the Rivian app saying, hey, this happened, we're working to fix it. None of those things happened. Not immediately, I should say. Email communication came eventually, but not until like the next morning. So many hours had passed at this point. Over 12 hours had passed where we didn't really know what was going on. So Rivian did eventually resolve the issue, thankfully, with another software update release. And but for a brief moment there, we did not know if this was going to be a situation where we would have to take our cars in to a service center or have a mobile service appointment come out to fix it, right? We didn't know. Now, thankfully, knock on wood again, when this happened, the car was very much drivable and safe. All of the safety features still worked. You could drive. The backup camera worked. So there were, it's good to see that Rivian has these systems in place that if the infotainment center or infotainment screen fails, an update or something, that the car is still going to work. The safety sensors are going to work. The airbags are going to work, right? All that good stuff the safety stuff is going to work. The critical things, I should say. So it's good to see that those two things are separated as they should be. Nothing should ever be just out of one system. There needs to be redundancies in place. So that's been that was a big deal, but thankfully it was taken care of, and I have faith that Rivian will not make that mistake again. But mistakes happen, and in my mind, you get one mistake like this, and you cannot let it happen again before you let down the owners and all that. And I think it was less that something happened and more that communication was not good. But that feedback was given to Rivian by myself, by others, and they realized their mistakes. So thankfully they were able to fix it. So can't complain about that. Thankfully everything's good now. So continuing down the list of my favorite things here. So what is the most improved thing in my Rivian since the time I've owned it? And I want to say, I think it's driver plus highway assist. So coming from Tesla, Tesla's autopilot is a really good tool. I haven't used it in recent time, and it's been probably a couple years since I've used it. But when I had my Model Y, I loved autopilot. Autopilot was a great advanced driver assistance system, and I loved it. Rivian's driver plus highway assist, when it first came out with the vehicle, was very lackluster. Take, for example, the fact that if you were driving on a highway and that highway had toll roads, even if the tolls were not booths, like it was just driving through and there were overhead cameras, like a gantry that took photos of your lights, of your plate, the Rivian would make you disengage the driver plus because whatever reason. I couldn't really tell you why. And that was really annoying because we have a lot of toll roads here in Central Florida, and so it was every time you wanted to drive and a toll was coming up, the car would inform you, hey, toll approaching, vehicle, driver plus highway assist disengaging. That was not convenient. That was inconvenient more than anything. So but over time, over all this time of having the Rivian R1T and the software, Rivian has made substantial improvements to Driver Plus, such as Now that is no longer an issue, right? Every toll, for the most part, is now been corrected in the system so that it doesn't require you to have to disengage driver plus, so you can actually drive through it, with exceptions obviously, to that. Another awesome thing is just moving on with driver plus is the continuation of improvement and features there. So now in a very recent update, in 2023.48 update, Rivian introduced the ability to change lanes while using driver plus. So if you have driver plus engaged and you put the turn signal on, you still have to manually move lanes over, but now it will re-engage the driver plus after you do that, which is really nice, as opposed to before where you like move to a lane, it would disengage driver plus, then you got into the lane, centered in the lane, engage it again. It was just annoying, right? Again, these are quality of life improvements that just make the system better. And so I want to give driver plus really the most improved feature of Rivian since I've had it. And I think it's only going to continue to get better as the technology improves, as they do things. We know for a fact that driver plus is very underpowered right now in what it can do. In my personal opinion, I think it can do much more. So I think that in time we'll see those improvements come. So I'm very happy about that. So let's see. So next question I got here was, hey Jose, what's your preferred drive mode? So being that I have an R1T quad motor, so we got the 4 motors, right? Nowadays they have the dual motor and the dual motor performance. But having the quad motor, I have the 4 engines, so I get to have the most amount of drive modes. And I'd be lying to you if I said I go off-roading a lot with this vehicle. I don't. There's not a lot of places to off-road where I am. I do want to take it to some places, but I also really want to take care of my vehicle and try to take care of it as much as possible. So I'm a little bit particular about, you know, taking it off-road and getting some pinstripes and all that. So primarily I focus on using on-road, and primarily I'm using all-purpose mode. All-purpose mode will engage all 4 of the motors, and so it is the one that it is recommended by Rivian to use for most of your day-to-day driving. That being said, when I drive road trips on a highway, so if I'm driving to South Florida or wherever I'm going, I will throw my truck into conserve mode. Conserve mode will only engage front wheel drive, so it disengages the 2 rear motors. And so in theory that should help with efficiency, because you're using less energy and not using the 2 rear engines. So when I'm driving long road trips, when it's not raining, because you want to when it's raining, it is not recommended to run conserve mode, because then you don't have the full grip of all 4 tires or all 4 motors. So but if it's a nice day, I'll switch into conserve mode, and I keep it I'll keep it to the front motors. And so, but day-to-day driving, all-purpose mode, standard ride height, which then leads into ride heights. And should I use auto ride height? So for a long time I used auto ride height. When Rivian introduced that feature, it was awesome, right? What that means is that as you're driving your vehicle, the suspension, the air suspension in the vehicle would auto adjust based on speed, efficiency, wind, a bunch of factors, right? And so if you're driving on a highway and you're in standard height, and then you're going 75 miles per hour, the truck would lower itself to a lower stance and keep it there to improve drag and ideally make it more efficient. But there's a side effect to using auto high suspension, and that is uneven tire wear, which leads into mentioned earlier, tires. So I'm at 30,000 miles now with my vehicle, and at about 14,000 miles I had to replace the Pirelli all-terrain Scorpion tires that come with the Rivian, because I had really bad uneven wear with the tires. Meaning it was wearing on the inside more than the outside. And this was even with normal tire rotation schedule that I had, it was still something that was going on. So I went to Discount Auto because I had two nails, funny enough, on 2 tires. So I was hoping to get it patched. They get the truck uplift. They call me over and they're like, hey, Jose, take a look at these tires. It is badly worn, right? Not something you notice. And so they were like, listen, like, you can replace this 1 tire here with the nails or these 2 tires. But we recommend, replacing all 4 tires. So I did. And I ended up getting a different set of tires. I went for the Nito Ridge Grappler tires, which are much heavier, much more aggressive look, which looked really nice, but they hurt efficiency, right? But anyways, so what I learned from that moment, and this is also great feedback, and there was a video out there from Brandon Flask, who used to own a Rivian R1T before selling it, and he did a whole video on auto of ride height and whatnot. And so it is, I recommend turning it off, right? There are pros and cons. For a little bit of efficiency gain, I don't think it's worth having to have uneven wear on your tires to the point where you have to replace them, and it's just going to cost a lot of money early on, especially when tires should be able to last, 30,000 miles, right? So I suggest keeping your ride height at standard. Standard is where Rivian is like the normal range, right? So like that is when they adjust the tires in your truck and all that. That is where it's set to. Obviously, if you're going off-roading and you set your vehicle to high or highest setting, that's different. You're not going high speeds on a highway, so your wear is not going to be so much of an issue. The issue is if you set your truck to low or lowest and you're driving, 300 miles in that setting on the highway, you're going to get some uneven wear. And if that's not a concern to you and you rather have the efficiency, absolutely go ahead. I just wanted to share that thought of like, yeah, I typically keep my suspension on standard, unless, like I'm really trying to get the most efficiency out of it, then maybe I'll go into low. But yeah, standard is typically where I keep it. Someone asked me, what is the correct answer to charge my battery for daily driving? Guys, there's no real correct answer, right? It depends. I personally charge my car up to 70%. That is my daily limit, which is one of the default settings in the app. But it just depends on how much you're driving. If you have much longer distances to go, you're obviously going to need to increase that. If you don't need to be driving a lot, then you can keep it lower. My thought process behind keeping it at 70% is this. First of all, I have 2 things. One, ABC, always be charging. I think it's really important to always have your truck just be ready to go. And that leads into the next thing, which is, what if there's an emergency? If I need to get in the truck, go somewhere, something happens, I'd rather be safe and have that energy and range than not. Yeah, Jose, you could go, if something like that happens, you can go to charge at that Electrify America station over there. Well, we know how reliable that is. Spoiler alert, it's not reliable, right? So I want to make sure that I'm ready at all times. So I keep my truck 70%. I used to keep it at 85%. Then Kyle from Out of Spec yelled at me and said, why do you keep your truck so high? So I keep it at 70% now. I think 70% is a good number. At 70%, I think, yeah, that's good. How often do I rotate my tires? Well, I try to do it every 7,000 miles, I think, between 5 and 7,000 miles, just to try to keep consistent. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how much you drive and what you drive and all that and all that. So yeah, between 5 and 7,000 miles, I think, is where I keep it. What's the driving comfort like in the Rivian R1T? This is a very comfortable vehicle. Coming from a Model Y, which set obviously lower, had much thinner tires. This being, I have the 20-inch all-terrain tires. They're thicker, you have a thicker thread, a thicker wall. It's bouncy, right? I keep my suspension on soft versus stiff. So it's nice and bouncy. It feels good. It's comfortable. My wife loves how comfortable it is too. For her, that was one thing she loved about the Model Y was that it was low to the ground, it was easy to get into, but it was a little stiff. It was the flip side for the Rivian. For her, it was hard to get into, but once you were in there and you were driving, it was a nice experience. I resolved part of that by getting some side steps from EV Sportline running boards and installing them myself, and now that helps because Rivian did introduce last year Neo mode, so the vehicle, when you put it in a park, it would lower itself. But it didn't lower to the lowest setting. It only went to low, and that was still just not good enough for getting shorter people out and off the vehicle. So with the side steps, it helps a lot. And yeah, I'm sure there's some impact to range, but I can't imagine it being super a lot, I should say. So yeah, anyways, let's see, how often does Driver Plus disengage? Well, much less today than it used to, right? Like I said earlier, Driver Plus was pretty mediocre back in the day. I am not saying it's the best at ADAS today. I think it still has a lot of work to be done, but I do think it's very sensitive, right? And so I think there's a fine line. There are scenarios where I think autopilot is too aggressive in Tesla, and there are scenarios where I think Driver Plus is too conservative on the Rivian. And so sometimes it's like it has issues. So like, for example, there's a section of I-95 that sometimes I'll drive on when I visit family, and the lines are very light painted, and the highway itself is light, right? It's not dark, and it's like a light asphalt, and that's where I find an issue where the Driver Plus will have a hard time finding the lines and disengage and panic and be like, oh my god, take control of the vehicle, blah blah blah, right? And it's like, I don't understand why that's an issue with the amount of cameras and LiDAR sensors and everything that this vehicle has. I feel like it should do better at that. And so there are scenarios where Driver Plus will just disengage for no reason. I think another issue that I have with Driver Plus, and I think this is, you know, a widely shared issue, I want to say. I don't know what the phrasing there is, but it's the fact that you can only use it on mapped roads. I want to be able to use Driver Plus Highway Assist any road. There is no reason that I cannot use it on local roads, just like autopilot. I'm not asking to change lanes. I just want to be able to have it keep center of lane while I keep my hand on the wheel. Be able to have, obviously, the adaptive cruise control, which you do, but primarily be able to just follow that road, right, wherever it goes. And I think that's one of the downsides to Driver Plus today, is that right now it's only on mapped roads, and I couldn't tell you why they do that. There's probably a safety reason or whatever, but and I hope one day we will be able to either, one, increase the number of mapped roads in the United States that we can use, or two, just let us use it on mapped roads would be ideal. So yeah. Do I adjust the suspension a lot? I don't adjust the suspension. Like I said earlier, I try to keep it on standard. I've noticed that if you put on auto, the truck will always try. I feel like the suspension is always kind of like situating itself. You know, sometimes I'll be at a stoplight, and it used to be worse about this, and it's gotten better over time with software updates. But it would used to constantly try to adjust itself at a stoplight. That you would just feel it, and you would hear it. And I haven't had an issue with this, knock on wood, again, but I don't want to have an issue with the air compressor in the vehicle. So I rather it not be constantly used, you know, if I can avoid it. So being able to, you know, reduce the number of times I have to use it, in my opinion, is best. So in that scenario, yeah, I think it's, like I said, it's gotten better with software. What have I had service in my car? Like I said, the HVAC system was the biggest issue that got resolved. Minor little things here and there. Have you had any rattles or random noises? There are rattles and random noises. I wish I could tell you where they're coming from, but they're kind of hard to pinpoint. It's not as bad as it was on my Tesla. I feel like when I had my Model Y, after like a year, everything in that vehicle made noise. And I recall there was a noise in the driver's side rear door in my Model Y where it was, I took it into Tesla multiple times and they could not figure out what it was. Finally, one day I got fed up with it. I took the door apart and I just bought some, I went on Amazon and bought some insulation tape that's like thick foam. And it's probably not called that. I don't know what it's called, but I bought that and I kind of sticked it to everything where there was a cable in the door. And when I put the door back together, that sound never happened again. So I guess I fixed it. But small little rattles and noises. The biggest noise complaint I have is wind noise from the driver window in the front corner, where if you're driving and it's very windy on highways, the wind noise there is a lot. And that is actually a known thing that Rivian will replace and fix. The reason I haven't done so is I have my windows tinted and I haven't wanted to replace that section because they have to replace the glass, which means I'd have to get it retinted. And so that's more on me than Rivian. It is something that can be fixed. I just haven't done it. Also, if you have the roof cargo bar, if you have the cargo bars and you stick them on the roof, which sometimes I just like the look of them up there, on highway or even, you know, anything above 45 miles per hour, it will just whistle, right? It whistles a lot because of the noise of the wind. So I wish there was a way to fix that. I know some people have had some homebrew suggestions on how to fix that, but yeah, anyways, it's not ideal. So how do I wash my car? I do a 2-bucket system. I recently got for Christmas a electric pressure washer, so I'm using that now with the foam cannon. I try to hand wash it as much as possible. I had the truck ceramic coated professionally, and so that helps a lot. It helps the water bead away. It looks good. But yeah, I try to wash it once a week if possible. It just depends on the weather, but I hand wash it typically. Early days I took it to a drive-through car wash, but that just destroys the paint, and I get it, right? Some people don't care, but I do, and so I stopped doing that. All right, I think that's all of the questions that I had there. There was some repeat ones, but I've already kind of gone over like wind noise in cabin. Like I said, it's a little noisy when you're driving at highway speeds in the cabin, but still quieter than an internal combustion engine vehicle. With having all-terrain tires, there's some noise there as well. So there's just little noises here and there that pop up, and it's just nothing you can do about it. That's okay. It's not the end of the world, not for me at least. So anyways, and yeah, so that's kind of my review for my Rivian after 30,000 miles. It is going strong. There's a couple little things here and there that need to be fixed, like I mentioned, but nothing that shows stopping. If I continue driving my vehicle today as is, and everything continued to work as is, I don't have any complaints whatsoever. I know over time, and since the release of this version, which was made in May 2022, Rivian has improved quality on some of the vehicles and all that. So I can only give you my review of my early vehicle. I'm an early VIN in the 4000s, so like this is an early model. Things have improved. Some things have gotten better. Some things have gotten worse. It's just, you know, personal opinion, right? This is all an opinion-based video, right? None of this is a fact, right? Like, I'm just telling you my experience. None of this is like, you know, oh, this is definitely, you know, a factual point of, you know, no, this is just me telling you what it's like to own a Rivian for 30,000 miles. Yeah, no, it's a great vehicle. I love it. I have plans to do some fun things in 2024 with it. I'm excited for the next 30,000 miles, which should come sooner, I think, because we have a lot of road trip. My wife and I have a lot of road trips planned. Now that the Tesla supercharging network will be opening up to Rivian vehicles, hopefully here soon in 2024, it is going to make being able to road trip so much easier because it's going to be reliable. I think that's the struggle that I've had personally, is taking road trips with unreliable charging infrastructure. And I'm not even going to get into that because there's plenty of people who've done videos. Check out Kyle out of Spec, check out Brandon Flass. Like, these are people who've done content on the charging infrastructure in the United States and how unreliable it is. This is why it's been so hard to recommend non-Tesla vehicles to folks who want to be able to road trip with an electric vehicle. But that's changing. And in 2025, Rivian vehicles will natively come with the new North American Charging Standard port. And in 2024, anybody with a Rivian currently will get an adapter in the mail that you'll be able to use to charge at Tesla superchargers or anywhere that has a North American Charging Standard port. So that's going to be a game changer, in my opinion, for road tripping. So, yeah. Anyways, that is my 30,000 mile Rivian R1T video. Looking at the thing, as we're at 45 minutes here, so probably be around that time. Thanks for sticking around. If you watched this long, I appreciate it. Just a couple of notes, housekeeping stuff. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us here on YouTube. I am continuing to think of new ways and new content to help create, not just for Rivian, but to help drive the EV revolution, to be able to get people to understand electric vehicles, to understand the charging and all that. I don't claim to be an expert at things like all these things. I'm just someone who loves their Rivian and wants to share content for it. So that's why I do this. If I can monetize some of this and help cover some of the expenses, such as buying new accessories, road tripping, reviewing things for you guys, helping pay for the vehicle, whatever it may be, that's just a benefit, but not a requirement. I do this for fun. So and I will continue to do it until it's no longer fun for me to do. So yeah, that's what I've got to say on that. And yeah, on that note, don't forget to check out website rivian.software, where it's not just software, but I have a list of all my favorite Rivian accessories on there where you can buy. Those are using my affiliate codes and or Amazon affiliate links, so you're supporting me and the channel by purchasing things from there. So if you feel like you want to help out, have at it, go use that. Check out all the release notes on there for current versions, upcoming versions of software for Rivian. You can see what's changed since the beginning of 2021 when we started tracking this stuff. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great 2024. It's going to be a great year. Great things for Rivian, for EVs, for everybody. So I will see you at the next video, and thanks for watching. Have a great day, guys. Bye.